Okay, it's time for another desk repair. This is my Apprentice's Nintendo Switch. I did a video a little while ago where I glued the stick back on temporarily, and in the meantime a new set of sticks has arrived. And those of you who are wondering about the screen, it's just the screen protector. We bought another screen protector at a premium price from EB Games. I'm pretty sure I can get these cheaper somewhere else. They're just a flat sheet of tempered glass. So today we're going to, for the first time, because I haven't done this before, pull the sticks out of here and replace them. Hopefully we have all the right tools in this kit. If not, I have a fair few at my own disposal. Now there's also a throwback to Tinkerman Mick, and this second channel of mine and his channel, we all started at the same time. And he started out doing things exactly like this. He also used to fix iPhones. So yeah, I have a lot of these tools stacked up from his collection as well. So the tray is MIA, but that doesn't matter. That Steve 1989 MRE info, he's one I watch a lot. Any case, we have 4 little extra pads here. You've got pink, blue, and the original factory ones there that my Apprentice has long lost, or long since lost. There's a couple of mounting screws, 4 of them in there, and our sticks with a little ribbon cable. Some ESD tweezers, one of these little plastic spudges, which I've got thousands of thanks to Mick, and a couple of these little screwdrivers. One seems to be a small Phillips, and the other seems to be also a smaller Phillips. We have a plectrum of sorts. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, we've got a bit of white cotton workshop rag here. We're going to flip this up. Did an initial bit of research, and it looks like when we open this, there is some heatsink compound contacting the back of that. It may be that I'll have to replace that. Now these screwdrivers feel a bit crunchy, and these, yes, they are not quite the right size. That is definitely small. Okay, I see why they provided us these ones. But that does not seem to be meshing with that screw, or it's coming out very softly. I don't want to mess these screws up. Well, there we go. It's just not very tactile feedback. So, alright, that's the USB-C port. We're going to grab ourselves my little handy dandy magnet thingy here. And these screws are not very magnetic. 2 screws along the top here. Do that. I think what I might do here is get my screwdriver magnetizer and magnetize the screwdriver, put it through the magnetized bit. Are these the tri-lobe ones? That might be what we've got here. This might be a tri-wing. It is, it's a mini tri-wing. That is, okay. Different type of screws on the sides. These are mini tri-wing screws. That is unusual. I wonder if I can zoom up and get a good look at these screws. Let's have a look here. These are definitely mini tri-wing screws. Alright, that's unexpected. But yeah, definitely why they gave you the screwdrivers with it. That makes total sense now. A plectrum, and I think the speaker port might be a good point to start here, just to give it a gentle twist. And then we can work the gap around here. And run around. And hopefully we can separate this up. Okay, we've got the sections open. We took the SD card and the game card out too, just in case they were going to cause a hang up on the port. This is hinging up on that, so we just need to be very gentle. I'm not sure what's attached to the back cover, but it looks like that comes off fairly well. Okay, so now the joystick controllers, I think, are under these sections here. Alright, so a bit more homework, and we're going to have no such luck in not removing this. We need to remove this, the Joy-Cons, or the triggers, the speakers, and the motherboard to get to the sticks which are on the other side. Now, one thing that is making a big difference to this is I put a tiny drop of sewing machine oil in the gap on the back of the screwdriver. Now that has meant when I use this, it's not binding up so much. So it means that taking a screw like this out, much easier and much more controlled. Alright, now there's mostly short screws here, but I notice there's one zinc plated long screw in the end of that that's just snapped onto the magnet there. I think that went in that top corner. So I've removed one from here, one from here, one from here. That could also be the long one. A tiny little short one there, one from the corner there. I think I've got them all. I'm going to lift gently though. Okay, and that is coming up. Okay, I think it's free, but feels like something holding it on up the back here. I'll investigate further. There is heatsink goo on the back here. We will have to find some more of that sort of stuff. We've got the cartridge slot here. We've got to take these out. The battery can probably stay. Don't think we need to pry that out. That's glued in anyway. Here's our little fan. I didn't know they had a proper little heat pipe fan and everything in there. That's pretty cool. But I guess they are running some reasonable hardware in these. So let's get the rest of this out. Okay, we've removed the 2 screws at the top here that lets the cardboard come free. Although there is something else here we probably need to remove. This little tricky little bit here, I'm going to just very gently lift that up. I think that's how that works, or is it one of the ones that goes in that way? No, I think this one levers up. There we go, that's levered that up. That should come out. We'll undo these screws now, see if we can get the headphone port out. I thought that was odd to only have screws on one side. If it seems too good to be true, it possibly is. So there's our heatsink and heat pipe. That feels like that's just on with a bit of tape there. So that's adhesively stuck on there with a bit of that stuff. We can lift that off, which is going to tear it slightly. It's okay, so there's heatsink compound on there. We're probably going to have to refresh that, which means this might not be in operation until tomorrow. And see if our headphone socket comes out. And before, I think you probably didn't get a great view of the heatsink because I was too zoomed in. But this is the heatsink and the heat pipe. It's very, very flat. But yes, heatsink compound might be something we're going to need. Alright, keep going with the headphone socket. We'll be back. Alright, the headphone socket is free after undoing those 4. And yes, we are right to remove that because they are all on the same ribbon cable. There we go, there's that unit there. So, another layer down. Now we've got to take this one out at least to get the motherboard out. Which stick are we changing? Mostly this one. We could end up leaving that one in there, I don't know. We might just leave the functioning one in for now. It's the one under the motherboard here we want to replace. So let's undo these 2 screws. Now it looks like the high load items like the trigger buttons use the long zinc screws. Right, there's our trigger. Okay, now that should give us access to pull the rest out. The fan I think we don't need to remove to get the motherboard out. I am spotting the antenna connectors here that will probably need to come up, and I'm going to try and do them gently with a pair of tweezers first, because I always feel that levering these things off at an angle is wrong. So we're going to pick our tweezers just under the front there, pop them up very gently. These are the supplied tweezers, which are very, very handy for this. I also note a ribbon cable there that I suspect may cause a problem. So that's going to get undone as well. And probably this ribbon cable over here needs to pop up as well. This is burying in quite a bit deeper than I thought we'd need to go. Okay, so there are lots of hidden connectors here I've had to pay attention to. This is the controller connector. I don't know how to get that out yet. This one has got a little black lever that hinges up. It took me a while to find it. This one I had to find. It's a lever type. There was another ribbon in here. That's for the previously removed bits. There's another one here and another one over here, and there was a hidden screw somewhere here. You've just got to take your time. The screws are different, but mostly the long zinc ones are here and the shorties were down here. But yeah, it's getting challenging to remember all these screw lengths. Right, this little connector here, I had to get the tweezers under and pull it straight out in that direction. I think if I've done everything right, I mostly have the motherboard free. But this is one of these things you don't want to rush. Okay. Gentle wriggle, feeling if everything's out. So I think while we have released this connector, we haven't pulled the tape out of it. There we go. I think that's the display connector. Alright. That is lifting off nicely. Okay. We're off. Alright. Now we can get to the stick here. We'll remove the rubber pad there. And yes, that is indeed the screen connector there. Alright. So now we need to pull this guy out, which this bit is pretty simple. Alright, so we are going to undo these two screws, which are the shorties. We're going to magnet them separately, and we're going to just pluck the broken one out. Okay, so this one we drop through the hole, and I hope that's how that works. There is this little gasket here that looks like it's going to get misaligned, so I may lift that. No, that's stuck down. Alright, so it does squeeze through the hole with a bit of finesse, and you can get it in. That's in position. So the screws that came out are the ones that are going back in. That's nice to see. Alright, I guess while we're in for a penny in for a pound, we could replace the other stick. I guess it would give it an even feel. And this board looks to be a separate entity. I think we'll reassemble this side first and then go to the other. So what we will do is put our rubber membrane back, and I think that was meant to go over there. Lots of little things that get out of whack while we've got this off. If you're not careful, things get in the wrong position. We're going to put our motherboard back in, and hopefully we can pick everything back through the hole. Alright, now for the bit that I dread, is always getting these little ribbon cables back in. These are always difficult to align, and they are springy like that. Okay, we're getting things back together. This ribbon's in, this ribbon's in. This one we're leaving to the last minute because we're going to put battery in first. That goes over the top. Screen ribbon is not in yet because it's too much of a pain in the ass. This one's in. I marked here for short screw, long screw, short screw. They're all in. These are the three heatsink screws. But yes, next in I've got to get this in, and it's just a different type of connected to the rest. It's going to take some mucking around to get it in there. Okay, this is back in. Spring in that corner, tactile switch I can hear moving under there. Little rubber membrane which obviously makes contact across those two pads, so that can go back in there. That little handy cross is actually a misplaced screw, so that's why that didn't go down quite as well as I'd hoped, because that is actually meant to go all the way through that. Glad I didn't do that up too tight. Okay, we're getting there. Now I'll tackle this thing again, and just poked it with my fingers and it suddenly popped in, and that big long bit on the top that I am worried about using tools on, if I use a finger at either end, it just clips down nicely. Now, if you've never encountered these type of connectors before, if I can get my camera angle view, they don't pull out backwards, they drop in straight on the top, like these little blades here. I need to get the ribbon out of the way, and if I can get my finger on here, they drop straight on the top like that, and you push down. Let's see if I can get that into position there. Get our little tool here, fold that down. Okay, nice and gentle, you don't need to put force on them. This might be easier if I manipulate that into the ribbon slot first while it's free floating, and then lock that down like so, then position that over the screw holes. Now we're 2 long screws and 4 shorts. Alright, so now we've tackled the hardest bit of it, and we have a number of extra screws, which I hope bodes well, because all the external ones went in there. We may have missed a few screws. We'll go back over and have a look in a moment, but there will be 3 for the heatsink that's got to go back on here. And what have we got? We've got half a dozen more. We will tackle this, but we've got to make sure we get all our screws in there first. Alright, I had missed 1 screw in here. Now we should have enough to put the 3 for the heatsink on, and then the remaining 3 or 4 for the heat shield, which means we should have roughly 6 or 7 screws left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws left. Okay, that's good. So the remaining screws we'll put on that magnet on that side, and then we can work on disassembling the far side here with the right hand stick. First thing I'm going to do is lift up the little lever here gently, take the pair of supplied tweezers, give it just a very gentle tug, very gentle, no need for force, and we can see a whole crap ton of screws. This looks like controller ribbon in here. Again, we'll get up on that hardened bit on the end there and see if we can grasp it with the tweezers and pull it out. I'm always worried about damaging that ribbon cable. I don't like that style of insertion. So, something I've just learnt. These are meant to be unlocked from the back side, not forced in and out. That's some news to me. So, yeah. Some people that would have been yelling at the screen about that one. Okay, I think we've got all the screws out. My apprentice in here is a little frustrated in that the concept that we may have to get some heatsink compound before we can put this thing back together. Okay, so we've got our board out, leave our rubber pad there. This is our stick here with 2 screws. I have to dodge the camera here to pull this out. Shorty. Most of these screws in this side have been long ones. I've been marking them. If you ever see an S or an L marked on the side of it, that'll be why. So this is one of the original ones, and you can see it's had a bit of a hard life. So we're going to change it for one with, it's still got the rubber covering. Drop this in here. I hope that was the correct orientation here, if I remember. And we need to just gently work it through that hole so that it doesn't take that gasket with it. There we go. I sense a disturbance in the force here. I may have that orientation wrong. There we go. That gasket did move, and this little ribbon cable has got in the way. There we go. Now, where's our short screw? Standard short one. Right, so there's our stick in place. Now, these bits are all dirty. We're going to give them a clean up, but we can reassemble that after we put the board back on the top. So that's what we will do before we get too far down the track. Alright, so the first thing we are going to do now, we've got this on, is we're going to put that screw back in under there first, because it requires you to be able to shunt that sideways slightly. Now that one's in. We can push our speaker back into position properly. Now the only super short screw here is the one that I marked as a super short one down there. And these are fortunately nicely magnetic screws. That one goes in there, and I did work it out. That super long one goes here where I also marked long. So that can go in that hole there and wind you down to hold the speaker in place. Okay, and now I tell a lie about that super long screw. I thought that felt a bit firm. There is another location where it actually needs to go. I put one of the other standard length screws in here and I bottomed out without taking up. So that's where that one goes. This one fortunately had enough depth that wasn't detrimental to it. And it's outside the screen area, so I wasn't doing something silly like putting a screw through the back of the screen. Okay, now we need to put our buttons in a little slot in the top. We've given the shoulder buttons a clean up. Now there is that one little ribbon cable we need to deal with down here that I hope we don't mess up in the process. Okay, fortunately that went in better than I thought. Now we need to worry about the other ribbon cable over the side here. Okay, we look to be up to putting the heatsink back on and then the heat shield. So there's heatsink compound on both sides of this. This contacts the heat shield on the back. This is the bit we're more concerned about. We want it to still continue to make a bit of contact. Now there is excess heatsink compound all over the place here. Some of this is from the top, some of this is from the bottom. What I'm hoping we might be able to do here is smear a bit of this back over here because we don't have any spare heatsink compound. What I may do is try and soften this with a bit of alcohol. And our local hoons are back at it again. Okay, what I might try and do is just liquefy this with a drop of alcohol. It may be advisable, it might not be, but if we can spread this out a little bit, we might be able to put some heatsink compound back on the chip. So we'll put the heatsink on here, and I'm going to wriggle this around a bit and it feels like it's generating a bit of suction with that compound on there, so better than nothing, I guess. Now, same deal with the thermal backplate. There's a huge chunk of heatsink paste sitting here. I'm not sure if any of that's going to help us. This is actually very dried out, this stuff. So I actually don't think that's going to help us much. So we might just rely on having the heat shield here, or the RF shield maybe. There is a dent in the back of that too. We need to push out gently with the fingers. I think that will probably be okay for the time being. Right, heat shield is on, and only one spare screw. Hopefully that's not a main grounding screw or something structural somewhere. So we will keep that aside for when I have to pull it apart and reapply heatsink compound. So, here comes a moment of truth. Now, which button turns it on again? Through the top here. Hang on. It is the very end one there. So we need to push and hold in on that bit. And that should turn it on. I'll be happy if I see the screen come up.
Please.
Let's see. I saw something happen. Maybe I have to push and hold it for a bit longer. That screen connector is the one that's by the... Okay, so that light, I saw the backlight turn off. So let the backlight turn on again. We might just give it a moment. Right, based on the set of symptoms we've got here, I think maybe I haven't quite seated that display ribbon properly, and that was the most difficult one. Because if I turn my overhead lights off, you can see when we do this, the backlight does come on. We can tap it, the backlight goes off. So backlight's working, but not the actual display interface. So what we might do is pull sections apart and have a look at that again. Okay, we have a little bit of life back. What the two bits that are apparently responsible, this is power for the backlight off on the corner here, and this ribbon cable here, this one wasn't quite seated properly, so I've reseated that. Learning that I was doing these the wrong way may mean I've damaged something, but this cable is easy to get wrong apparently, and very easy to damage. Okay, we may have a bit of success here. It lights up. That's because I went over to TV Parts World. He's a guru on this sort of stuff, and I found out that this connector here is the LCD, not this one, and this was not quite seated properly. So it works, although I have arranged to go and buy a spare one second hand, but I might still do that anyway. But yeah, it works. Let's button it up and get it happening. Okay, so now that we haven't completely cocked things up, we're going to get this old messed up screen protector off, put a fresh one on. Right, we just give it a spray with alcohol. I figured it might as well be worth doing properly. Tricky bit with this is always getting it aligned right, and I've got to peel off that before application. So let's peel that one off. Very carefully try and align this as best we can along that corner, and then we'll just drop it on and let it work its way across. Not sure if you can see it happening there. Focus is a little difficult with this. And we'll use our plectrum here to just push the corner off. I love it when they go on that well. That's a Tinkerman Mick job. You certainly look him up on YouTube, a good mate of mine. He taught me to do screen protectors. Okay, my apprentice says she wants the pink one on the left and the blue one on the right. Even though there are two colours, she wants one of each. Now let's see if I can get this on the right way up. Oh, this could be a challenge. Yeah. This is going to require a little bit of manhandling to get them on. But pink one on the left, do blue one on the right. Let's go wide angle so you can see all the rest of the desk for the last little bit of this video. This is a bit of an accomplishment. I just had to tell a couple of people on Facebook Marketplace, which is one of the very few things I do on Facebook nowadays, that sorry, I managed to fix the problem. I won't be needing your second-hand switch anymore. Right. that could be interesting. Anyway, we've got it working. We're going to boot it back up again to be sure. Okay. It does need a restart because we've got to get it to reread the SD cards again. So power option and restart. Cool. But we managed to fix it. So here we go. We have a brand new Nintendo Switch. I can get some thumbnails off this at some point. So it's not brand new, but at least it's got new sticks. I'm happy. I was a bit worried that I'd messed it up, and so was my Apprentice. But not bad for first time. And lesson learnt, check all the ribbon cables for alignment, even the ones you think don't have anything to do with the problem. So see you in the next one. Actually, better make sure we have sound still. Do we still have sound? We do. Good. We still have sound. Okay. See you in the next one. Hope it was fun. Hope it didn't drag on too long.